He looked at me, smirked, then pushed my presentation aside like I'd just proposed planting corn in the middle of Times Square. 4 days after being fired, I saw his name trending on social media with a different smile, one drowning beneath a media storm demanding his resignation. I didn't need to do anything. My idea had already taken its revenge for me. My name is Riley Monroe, and at 33, I thought I'd finally found my place in the tech world. After years of grinding through mid-tier companies, watching brilliant ideas die in conference rooms because someone's nephew had a better vision, I'd landed at Brightforge Solutions in New Wexford, Oregon. It wasn't Silicon Valley, but that was the point. This rain-soaked corner of the Pacific Northwest was transforming into something electric, a place where innovation could still breathe without choking on venture capital ego. The office sat in a converted brewery, all exposed brick and Edison bulbs, trying desperately to look authentic. I'd been promoted to the strategic innovation team just 3 months earlier, after my predictive analytics tool helped a client triple their conversion rate. Small victory. But mine. I remember walking to my new desk that first morning, coffee in hand, believing I'd finally escaped the gravitational pull of mediocrity. My personal life was another story. The divorce papers had been signed 2 weeks before the promotion. 10 years of marriage reduced to a splitting of assets and awkward silences. Marcus kept the house in Portland. I kept my sanity. Most nights, I worked until the cleaning crew arrived, not because I had to, but because the empty apartment felt like a museum of choices I couldn't take back. That's when the idea hit me. Not in some dramatic eureka moment, but slowly. Like watching paint dry in reverse. Small businesses were drowning in data they couldn't use, paying fortune tellers disguised as consultants to interpret spreadsheets. What if AI could democratize that power? What if a coffee shop owner could predict customer behavior as accurately as Amazon? But for the price of a Netflix subscription? I spent 6 weeks building the framework. Late nights fueled by takeout Thai food and the kind of determination that comes from having nothing left to lose. The algorithm was elegant in its simplicity. Machine learning that actually learned from each business's unique patterns. Not some one-size-fits-all corporate template. My team believed in it. During our informal Friday sessions, they'd gather around my monitor, watching the prototype predict sales spikes with eerie accuracy. "This is it, Riley," my colleague Sam had said, his eyes wide behind thick-rimmed glasses. "This is the one that changes everything." I polished that presentation like my life depended on it. Because maybe it did. 37 slides of pure potential, each one a stepping stone toward something that mattered. The meeting was scheduled for a Tuesday morning in September, the kind of gray Pacific Northwest day that made you forget the sun existed. I should have known something was wrong when they announced the new creative strategy director the week before, brought in from some East Coast firm to elevate our innovation culture, whatever that meant. But I was too deep in my own world, too convinced that good ideas could transcend office politics. That morning, I wore my best blazer, the charcoal one that made me feel like I could conquer worlds. I arrived early, tested the projector twice, arranged my notes with the precision of a surgeon. Through the conference room glass, I watched the rain streak down, turning the city into an impressionist painting. At 9:47 a.m., I was ready to change everything. At 10:23 a.m., everything changed me instead. Kyle Renner entered the conference room like he owned the air we breathed. 41 years old. Silver streaking his temples in that calculated way that screamed executive material. His handshake was a weapon, too firm, held too long, designed to establish dominance before words were even exchanged. I'd met his type before, the kind of man who confused cruelty with leadership, who saw collaboration as weakness. "So you're Riley," he said, emphasis on the "you're" like he'd been warned about me. His eyes did that thing men like him always do, a quick scan, categorizing me not as a colleague, but as a problem to solve. Female. Early 30s. Probably emotional. Definitely replaceable. He settled into the head of the table, though that wasn't his assigned seat. Power moves from page 1 of the Toxic Leadership Playbook. 2 other executives flanked him, their faces carefully neutral. Sarah from finance at least had the decency to offer an encouraging nod. Tom from operations studied his phone like it contained nuclear codes. I've been reviewing our innovation pipeline, Kyle began before I could even start. Lot of interesting ideas floating around. But interesting doesn't pay the bills, does it? I kept my voice steady, professional. That's exactly why I'm excited to present today. This tool addresses a real market gap with measurable ROI potential. He leaned back, fingers steepled. Proceed. The first slides went smoothly. Market analysis, competitor landscape, the problem statement. Kyle's expression remained carved from stone. But when I reached the technical architecture, something shifted. His lips twitched, not quite a smile, more like a predator spotting prey. Hold on, he interrupted. You're telling me you want to give mom-and-pop shops the same predictive capabilities as Fortune 500 companies? That's exactly what I'm telling you. The technology exists. We're just making it accessible. Accessible, he repeated, tasting the word like spoiled wine. You know what's accessible? Excel spreadsheets. You know what small businesses actually need? Better accounting software, not some. He waved his hand dismissively. Fantasy AI crystal ball. With respect, the prototype testing shows. Prototype testing. Now he did smile, and it was worse than his scowl. Let me guess. You tested it with what? 5 friendly businesses? 10? That's not data. That's wishful thinking. Sarah shifted uncomfortably. Actually, Kyle, the preliminary results are quite promising. Promising. He turned the word into a bullet. Sarah, I wasn't brought here for promising. I was brought here to separate the wheat from the chaff. And this? He gestured at my presentation like it was roadkill. This is what happens when we let engineers play entrepreneur. The room temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. Tom finally looked up from his phone, sensing blood in the water. I've been in this industry for 20 years, Kyle continued, standing now, using his height like a cudgel. You know how many times I've seen this exact pitch? Democratize enterprise tools, empower small businesses, level the playing field. It's first-year MBA fantasy. Small businesses don't want complexity. They want simplicity. They want someone else to handle the tech so they can focus on their actual business. That's exactly what this tool does. No. The word cracked like a whip. What this tool does is add another layer of complexity to businesses already drowning in options. It's a solution looking for a problem, dressed up in enough buzzwords to fool people who don't know better. He picked up my printed proposal, flipped through it with theatrical disgust. Predictive analytics for coffee shops, machine learning for boutiques. Christ, what's next? Blockchain for food trucks? A few nervous chuckles from his flanking executives. Sarah stayed silent. The really sad part, Kyle said, looking directly at me now, is that you probably believe in this. You probably went home every night, coding away, thinking you were building the future. But this isn't innovation, Riley. This is what happens when participation trophy kids grow up and think every idea deserves venture capital. He dropped my proposal back on the table. It landed with a soft thud that echoed like a gavel. We need builders here, not dreamers. We need people who understand that innovation means improving what works, not chasing every shiny object that crosses their laptop screen. This meeting's over. As I gathered my materials, hands steady despite the tremor in my chest, he delivered the final blow. Maybe take some time to really think about whether strategic innovation is the right fit for you. Sometimes people are better suited for implementation roles. 3 days later, HR called me into a windowless room. Budget restructuring, they said. Departmental realignment. Nothing personal, they insisted, as they slid the separation agreement across the table. But Kyle's signature on the termination approval told a different story. I signed where they pointed, cleaned out my desk in silence, and walked out of Brightforge Solutions with a cardboard box of personal items and a fury that burned cold and patient. They'd made one crucial mistake. They'd given me a reason. The first 48 hours after termination, I did what any rational person would do. I doubted everything. Maybe Kyle was right. Maybe I was just another delusional techie confusing code with commerce. I sat in my empty apartment, rain hammering the windows, replaying every word of that meeting until they carved grooves in my brain. The cardboard box from my desk sat unopened by the door like an accusation. Inside were 3 years of my life, a coffee mug with a faded Git joke, photos from team launches, the stress ball shaped like a brain that Sam had given me, remnants of a person who used to believe merit mattered. On the third night, something shifted. I'd been scrolling through LinkedIn, watching former colleagues post motivational quotes about resilience, when I saw Kyle's update. Excited to announce Brightforge's new direction in practical innovation. Sometimes you have to prune the tree to help it grow. Leadership, innovation, results. Prune the tree, like I was a dead branch. That's when Lena called. I heard what happened, she said without preamble. Lena Carter had been my first boss. Back when I was green and eager and still believed HR departments existed to help humans. She'd left corporate life 5 years ago to become an angel investor, focusing on what she called unsexy solutions to real problems. News travels fast, I managed. Bullshit travels faster. I know Kyle Renner. Worked with him at Pinnacle Tech. Man couldn't innovate his way out of a paper bag. But he's excellent at taking credit for other people's work. A pause. Tell me about this tool of yours. It doesn't matter now. Riley. Her voice carried that particular mix of warmth and steel that had made her the only exec I'd ever truly respected. I've got a check with your name on it gathering dust. You going to make me write coward in the memo line? So I told her everything. The late nights, the algorithm, the successful tests with local businesses who'd begged to keep using the prototype, how it could transform decision-making for companies too small to hire analysts but too smart to fly blind. Send me what you have, she said when I finished. And Riley, fuck Kyle Renner. I worked like a woman possessed. Not out of hope. Hope was a luxury I couldn't afford. But out of pure, crystallized spite. Every line of code was a middle finger to Kyle's smirk. Every successful test was proof that being right mattered more than being liked. Lena contributed more than money. She had connections, real ones, not the LinkedIn variety. A designer who believed in the vision created a UI so intuitive it made Excel look like hieroglyphics. A sales expert who'd grown tired of selling vaporware helped craft a go-to-market strategy that targeted exactly the businesses Kyle said didn't want complexity. We called it Predict Flow. Simple name for a simple promise. Know what's coming before it arrives. The first real customer was a bakery in Southeast Portland. The owner, Maria, had been hemorrhaging money on inventory, too much bread on slow days, not enough croissants on weekends. 2 weeks with Predict Flow and she'd cut waste by 30%. She sent us a photo of her waste tracking chart with "Holy shit" written across the top in Sharpie. The second customer told the third told the 10th. By week 3, we had 50 small businesses in beta testing, each one proving Kyle's thesis catastrophically wrong. But the real catalyst came from an unexpected source, a Reddit post. Some developer in our beta program had screen recorded their dashboard, showing how PredictFlow had predicted a surprise rush after a local festival changed venues last minute. Title: This AI tool just saved my food truck from missing the biggest sale day of the year. The post exploded. Not viral in the TikTok sense, but viral in the way things that actually work spread through communities of people who give a damn. The top comment: wait, this is exactly what that Brightforge exec said small businesses didn't need. LMAO. Someone had done their homework. Found Kyle's LinkedIn post, connected the dots. Within 12 hours, Tech Twitter had hold of it. Executive mocks employee's idea as first-year MBA fantasy. Employee builds it anyway. It's actually genius. Thread. Lena texted me at 2 a.m. You seeing this? I was. But I wasn't celebrating. I was coding. Because the best revenge isn't served cold. It's served functional, scalable, and with a satisfaction guarantee. The anger hadn't gone away. It had transformed into something more useful: fuel. Every new sign-up was a data point proving Kyle wrong. Every success story from a small business owner was evidence that innovation wasn't about corner offices and 20 years of doing things the same way. Maria from the bakery sent another photo. This time, her tracking chart showed 3 consecutive weeks of less than 5% waste. She'd written a new message in Sharpie. "I can afford health insurance now." I printed that photo, not for motivation. I had plenty of that. But as a reminder of what happens when you build things that matter instead of just playing corporate politics. The funding offers started coming in. Real VCs, not Kyle's country club buddies. But we weren't ready. Not yet. We had something to prove first. The demo video was never meant to go viral. It was just supposed to show potential customers how Predict Flow worked. 3 minutes of screen capture with my voice explaining the interface. No fancy animations, no corporate polish, just the truth of what we'd built. But truth, it turns out, is its own kind of marketing. Someone cross-posted it from our small business subreddit to RDA Entrepreneur. From there, it hit Hacker News, then LinkedIn, where it couldn't have landed better if I'd orchestrated it myself, right in the middle of Small Business Week, when every corporate exec was posting empty platitudes about empowering entrepreneurs. The comment section became a massacre. "This is what actual innovation looks like, not another Uber for X pitch. My flower shop needs this yesterday." Wait, didn't Brightforge just announce they're focusing on practical innovation? LMFAO. Kyle Renner thoughts. "Since you're so passionate about small business solutions," Lena forwarded me the analytics. In 72 hours, we'd received over 3,000 beta access requests. Our simple landing page crashed twice. The bakery owner, Maria, had become an unofficial spokesperson, responding to comments with screenshots of her improved margins. Then, Marcus Zhao called. I hadn't heard that name in 3 years, not since he'd left venture capital to start Cascade Partners, focusing exclusively on unsexy infrastructure plays. While everyone else chased crypto and VR, Marcus funded the companies making sure your packages arrived on time and your electricity bill was accurate. "I've been watching your trajectory," he said. Phone calls with Marcus were like chess matches, every word placed deliberately. Interesting pivot from enterprise to SMB. It wasn't a pivot, it was a revelation. I could hear him thinking, wheels turning. "I have a portfolio company. Logistics firm, handles last-mile delivery for about 3,000 small businesses across the Pacific Northwest. They need predictive modeling for demand planning, desperately." My heart stopped. 3,000 businesses. Real-world implementation at scale. "I'm listening. I'm not talking about a pilot program. I'm talking about full integration. Every one of their clients gets Predict Flow as part of the service. We're willing to pay $5 million for exclusive rights in the logistics vertical for 3 years. $5 million. I need to discuss with my team," I managed, professional despite the vertigo. "Of course, but Riley? This offer expires in 48 hours. I don't do bidding wars." After hanging up, I sat in my apartment, staring at the number I'd written down. $5 million. Not for the company, just for the rights to use our tool in one industry. The validation hit different than the social media storm. This was real money for real value. Lena was ecstatic, but cautious. "We need lawyers, good ones. This could make us or break us." We spent the next day in a conference room that cost more per hour than I used to make in a day, surrounded by contracts and NDAs and terms I'd only seen in TechCrunch headlines. But the deal was solid. Marcus wasn't trying to steal our IP or lock us into exclusivity hell. He just wanted his clients to stop losing money on bad predictions. "Sign it," Lena said after the lawyers gave their blessing. So I did. 3 signatures that transformed Predict Flow from a spite project into a multi-million-dollar reality. The press release went out at 6 a.m. Pacific on a Thursday. Cascade Partners invests $5 million in Predict Flow for revolutionary SMB intelligence platform. By 6:47 a.m., my phone was melting. journalists, investors, potential customers, and more than a few former Brightforge colleagues. I ignored most of them. But one message stopped me cold. From Sam, still at Brightforge. Conference room is silent. Kyle hasn't come out of his office. Ko just asked if anyone has your current contact info. I didn't respond. There was code to write, customers to onboard, a company to build, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't smile. The TechCrunch article dropped that afternoon. From fired to funded, how one engineer's rejected idea became a $5 million deal in 4 weeks. They'd done their homework, quoted Kyle's LinkedIn post about pruning the tree, found former Brightforge employees willing to go on record about the toxic culture he'd created. One anonymous source described the meeting where I'd been humiliated. He literally said it was a first-year MBA fantasy. Guess the market disagrees. But the quote that went viral came from Maria, the bakery owner. This tool saved my business. I don't care about corporate drama. I care that I can now predict demand accurately and pay my employees better. That's innovation. Everything else is just noise. Marcus called again that evening. Impressive media cycle. You planning to milk it? No, I'm planning to deliver what we promised. Good. Because I've got 12 more portfolio companies asking when they can get access. Seems your ex-boss did us all a favor by being an idiot. I looked at my laptop screen, where dozens of new customers were signing up every hour. Each one a small business owner who'd been told they didn't need complexity, didn't deserve enterprise-level tools, didn't matter enough for real innovation. Kyle had been right about one thing. I did go home every night thinking I was building the future. The difference was, I actually built it. The first crack in Brightforge's carefully maintained facade appeared on a Tuesday morning, buried in the business section of the New Wexford Tribune. Local tech firm faces questions over innovation strategy. It started innocuously enough. A reporter named Janet Morrison had been covering the PredictFlow story when she noticed something interesting in our SEC filing. Under previous employment, my 3 years at Brightforge were listed, ending just 1 week before we launched. She did what good reporters do. She dug. Multiple sources confirm that the revolutionary PredictFlow platform was originally conceived and pitched at Brightforge Solutions, where it was rejected by newly appointed creative strategy director Kyle Renner as unrealistic and unnecessarily complex. But Janet didn't stop there. She'd found 3 other former Brightforge employees, all women, all terminated within 6 months of Kyle's arrival, all with similar stories of innovative ideas dismissed with theatrical disdain. The story exploded across tech media like wildfire in drought season. By noon, Brightforge Gate was trending. Someone leaked an internal email where Kyle had written, "We need fewer dreamers and more soldiers. Innovation isn't about reinventing wheels, it's about making the wheels we have turn faster." Tech Twitter eviscerated him. Someone created a parody account, Why? Wheel Turner Kyle, that tweeted increasingly absurd business platitudes. Why build a bridge when you can teach the river to flow backward? It gained 10,000 followers in 3 hours. But the real damage came from LinkedIn. Current Brightforge employees started sharing their experiences, carefully worded to avoid lawsuits, but clear enough to paint a picture. The VP of Engineering posted about systemic undervaluation of innovative thinking. The lead data scientist shared a story about watching brilliant ideas die in conference rooms because they threatened the status quo. Then someone leaked the video. Security footage from the conference room where Kyle had humiliated me. No audio, but the body language told the story. Kyle standing, gesturing dismissively at my presentation. Me, growing smaller in my chair. The moment he dropped my proposal like garbage, the internet has a long memory and a short fuse for bullies. By Wednesday, Brightforge's Glassdoor rating had plummeted. Their recruiting pipeline, already struggling in New Wexford's competitive market, dried up entirely. A scheduled funding round was postponed indefinitely. Kyle tried damage control, posted a lengthy LinkedIn essay about learning from mistakes and evolving leadership styles. But the internet wasn't buying his corporate redemption arc. The top comment: weird how leaders only evolve after they get caught. Thursday brought the inevitable: an all-hands meeting at Brightforge, live-streamed accidentally when someone forgot to turn off their Zoom. Kyle's termination was announced in corporate speak, pursuing other opportunities to better align with his leadership vision. But the best part, the part that felt like the universe had a sense of humor, came from the CEO's statement. Brightforge remains committed to fostering innovation at all levels. We regret that certain voices weren't heard when they should have been. Certain voices, like mine, was just one of many casualties in Kyle's war against imagination. My phone buzzed constantly. Reporters wanting statements, former colleagues sharing gossip, investors suddenly very interested in what else I might be building. I gave one interview to Janet Morrison, the reporter who'd started it all. "How does it feel to be vindicated so publicly?" she asked. "It feels like work," I told her. "Every minute I spend thinking about Kyle Renner is a minute I'm not spending on my customers. He's already taken enough of my time." But privately, I watched him fall with the satisfaction of someone who'd been told they couldn't fly, then built wings anyway. Sarah from finance sent me a text. "He's gone, cleared out his office at 6 a.m. to avoid running into anyone. Security said he tried to take the espresso machine. It wasn't even his." The real kicker came Friday afternoon, a message request on LinkedIn from Kyle himself. "Riley, I've had time to reflect on our interaction and realize I may have been hasty in my assessment. I'm wondering if you'd be open to a conversation about potential collaboration. I believe my experience could be valuable to Predict Flow's growth trajectory." I screenshot it. Not to share, I wasn't that petty. But to remind myself that the best revenge isn't destroying your enemies. It's building something so undeniably successful that they have to ask you for a job. I didn't respond. But I did notice he'd updated his LinkedIn headline: Innovation Strategist, Transformation Leader, available for consulting opportunities. Meanwhile, PredictFlow onboarded its 1,000th customer. Maria the baker sent another photo, this time of her new delivery van, purchased with the money she'd saved from better inventory management. She'd named it Kyle because, as she explained, it carries a lot of weight but doesn't contribute much to the actual work. The internet loved that too. 3 former Brightforge engineers reached out about joining PredictFlow. All brilliant, all stifled under Kyle's regime. I hired 2 of them. The third I referred to another startup. We were growing fast, but not recklessly. "You could destroy him," Lena said over drinks that Friday night. One press conference about gender discrimination, toxic leadership, the whole 9 yards. Brightforge would probably settle just to make it go away. "Why would I do that?" I asked. "He's already destroyed himself. Besides, I've got a company to run." She raised her glass. "To building things that matter. To proving them wrong by being right." We clinked glasses as my phone lit up with another dozen customer notifications. Each one a small business choosing complexity, demanding better tools, refusing to settle for the status quo. Kyle thought he was pruning dead branches. Turns out, he was just clearing space for new growth. The emergency board meeting at Brightforge happened on a Sunday. That alone told you everything about the severity of the situation. Tech executives don't give up weekend tea times unless something's on fire. I know because 3 different sources inside the company were texting me play-by-plays. Board just asked for a full audit of terminated employees over the last year. Sam messaged, "Legal is freaking out." CFO presenting on damaged market cap. From another friend, stock down 30% since Tuesday. 2 major clients threatening to pull contracts. From a third, they're citing cultural misalignment. The final blow came from an unexpected source, Brightforge's biggest investor, a pension fund that prided itself on ESG standards. They released a statement expressing serious concerns about leadership practices and innovation culture. In investor speak, that's one step from pulling the plug entirely. By 3 p.m., the verdict was in: Kyle Renner, terminated with cause. No golden parachute, no graceful exit. Just done. The official statement was a masterpiece of corporate damage control. The board of directors has accepted Kyle Renner's resignation to pursue other opportunities. We thank him for his contributions and wish him well in his future endeavors. But the leaked termination letter told a different story. Failure to foster innovation, discriminatory leadership practices, and actions directly contributing to significant reputational damage and financial losses. He tried to spin it, posted about philosophical differences and being a change agent in cultures not ready for transformation. But nobody was buying what he was selling. His post got ratioed so hard someone turned it into a business school case study on how not to handle professional failure. The sweetest irony? Brightforge had to hire an external innovation consultant to help rebuild their creative culture. The consultant's first recommendation: implement employee-driven innovation programs where ideas are evaluated on merit, not politics. Revolutionary concept? Really? Monday morning brought an unexpected visitor to our office. Actually, to the coffee shop below our office, since we were still working out of a co-working space. Tom from operations, the one who'd stayed silent during my humiliation, sat across from me looking like he'd aged 5 years in 5 days. I should have said something, he started without preamble. When Kyle tore into your presentation, I knew it was wrong. I knew the idea had merit. But I kept quiet. I stirred my coffee, letting him sit with his discomfort. 3 of us are leaving Brightforge, he continued. Starting our own consulting firm. Focus on helping companies avoid the kind of... He gestured vaguely. Whatever you call what just happened. Toxic leadership? I suggested. Innovation theater? Testosterone poisoning? He almost smiled. All of the above. Look, I'm not asking for forgiveness or friendship. But I wanted you to know that some of us learned something from this. That silence in the face of bad leadership is complicity. What do you want me to say, Tom? That it's okay? That I understand why you chose job security over integrity? No, he said quietly. I want you to know that Predict Flow succeeding the way it has. It changed how I think about courage in corporate settings. Next time someone like Kyle shows up, I won't be silent. After he left, I sat with my cooling coffee, processing the strangest sensation. I didn't hate him, or Kyle, or any of them. Hate required energy I preferred to spend on building things. The real culmination came Thursday evening. The Pacific Northwest Tech Awards, an annual gathering where the region's innovation community celebrated itself with mediocre wine and excellent networking. PredictFlow had won the Emerging Technology category. Lena insisted I attend, despite my preference for root canals over award ceremonies. It's not about the ugly glass trophy, she said. It's about showing every other Riley out there that the Kyles don't always win. So I wore the good blazer, not the charcoal one from that disastrous meeting. I'd burned that in a therapeutic bonfire and practiced my 30-second acceptance speech. The universe has a sense of humor about timing. As I walked to the stage, I passed the Brightforge table. Their interim CEO offered an awkward nod. Their new head of innovation, a woman, I noted with satisfaction, actually smiled. And in the back, near the exit like he was ready to bolt, stood Kyle Renner. He'd aged months and weeks. The power suit looked deflated. The commanding presence had shrunk to something almost human. We made eye contact for exactly 1 second before he looked away. I took the stage, accepted the award, and delivered my speech. They say innovation is about seeing what others miss. But sometimes it's simpler than that. Sometimes it's about building what others dismiss. To every entrepreneur who's been told their idea is too complex, too ambitious, too anything, build it anyway. The market, not the conference room, decides what matters. The applause was gratifying. The standing ovation from the small business owners in attendance was better. But the best part was walking off that stage knowing I'd built something that mattered without destroying someone else to do it. Kyle left before the ceremony ended. Someone said they saw him in the parking lot, sitting in his Tesla, staring at nothing. I didn't gloat. Didn't seek him out for a final confrontation. Didn't need to. Success is its own revenge. Everything else is just noise. 6 months later, PredictFlow had offices in 3 cities and was helping over 10,000 small businesses make smarter decisions. We'd raised Series A funding on our terms, not theirs. Maria the baker had become our unofficial brand ambassador, speaking at conferences about how data democracy saved her business. I was reviewing code on a typical Seattle morning when Lena knocked on my door. Yes, I had a door now, though I kept it open most of the time. "You need to see this," she said, placing a printed job posting on my desk. Brightforge Solutions. Senior Innovation Consultant, wanted, requirements. Experience in AI/ML applications for SMB market. Track record of building user-friendly predictive analytics tools. They were literally trying to hire someone to build what I'd already built. The kicker, Lena pointed to the bottom, is who posted it. Hiring manager, Kyle Renner, independent innovation consultant to Brightforge Solutions. They'd brought him back. Not as an executive, those bridges were ash, but as a contractor. The man who'd called my idea a first-year MBA fantasy was now tasked with finding someone to replicate it. "You could make his life hell," Lena observed. "One LinkedIn post about this irony, and he'd be radioactive again." I looked at the posting, then at my monitor showing real-time data from thousands of businesses thriving with our tools. Why would I waste the energy? That afternoon, I had my regular walk through downtown New Wexford. The rain had stopped, leaving that clean Pacific Northwest air that made everything feel possible. I passed the old Brightforge building, its logo still gleaming despite everything. A small crowd had gathered outside, new graduates, probably, eager to start their careers at a established tech firm. I wondered how many Rileys were among them, carrying ideas that would be dismissed as too complex, too ambitious, too female. As I walked past, someone recognized me. A young woman, maybe 25, clutching a portfolio. "You're Riley Monroe," she said. "From PredictFlow." I nodded. "I just got rejected from Brightforge," she continued. "They said my blockchain supply chain idea was too theoretical. I've been building it anyway. But..." She stopped, uncertainty creeping in. "But nothing," I told her. "Build it anyway. Test it with real businesses. Let the market tell you if it's too theoretical." Her eyes lit up. "Even if no one believes in it?" "Especially then." I gave her my card. Not because I wanted to hire her, maybe someday, but not yet. Because I remembered being her, standing outside buildings where men in suits decided what innovation looked like. The walk back to our office took me past the coffee shop where Tom had apologized, the co-working space where we'd started, the bakery where Maria had first proved our concept. Each landmark a reminder that the best revenge isn't served at all. It's built, tested, and scaled. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Riley, this is Kyle. I know you have no reason to respond, but I wanted you to know something. I use PredictFlow for my consulting clients now. It's brilliant. I was wrong. Not expecting forgiveness. Just wanted you to know. K." I screenshotted it, not to share or mock, but to remind myself that even the Kyle Renners of the world could change, eventually, when the market forced them to. That evening, standing in our new office as my team worked late on the next release, I thought about revenge. How I'd fantasized about this moment, Kyle humbled, Brightforge scrambling, my innovation validated beyond doubt. But the reality felt different. Quieter. More permanent. Revenge, it turns out, isn't a dish. It's not served hot or cold. It's not served at all. It's built. Line by line, customer by customer, proof. Point by proof point, it's waking up every day and choosing to create rather than destroy. It's taking the energy they want you to waste on anger and investing it in something that matters. I looked at our wall of customer testimonials, thousands of small business owners who'd never heard of Kyle Renner and didn't care about corporate drama. They cared that our tool worked, that it helped them serve their communities better, that someone had finally built technology that respected their intelligence while acknowledging their constraints. That's the thing about the best revenge. It's not about them at all. It's about becoming someone who doesn't need revenge anymore. My computer pinged. Another customer sign up. A brewery in Portland, according to the data. I smiled, thinking about full circles and new beginnings. Outside, New Wexford glittered in the twilight, rain-washed and full of possibility. Somewhere out there, another Riley was being told their idea was impossible. Tomorrow, they'd start building it anyway. I turned back to my code. There was work to do. There always was when you were building the future, instead of settling scores with the past. The office slowly emptied as night fell, but I stayed a little longer. Not because I had to anymore, but because I wanted to. The wall where we'd hung that first dollar earned was now covered with thank you notes from customers. Above them all, Maria's Sharpie message still held pride of place. I can afford health insurance now. That was better than any revenge. That was revolution. I grabbed my jacket, turned off the lights, and headed home. Tomorrow we'd build more. Tonight, I'd sleep the deep sleep of someone who'd learned the most powerful truth in business. Success isn't the best revenge. It's the only revenge worth pursuing. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop a comment below and let's connect. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts. What would you have done in Riley's situation? I'm excited to hear your perspectives.